Washington, D.C. was covered with a soft gray sky that morning, the kind of sky that seemed unsure about letting the sun through. The security lines around the White House stretched far, a quiet sign that tonight was no ordinary night. It was the president's annual cultural honor event, and the most special guest of the evening was Aretha Franklin. Aretha had prepared more carefully than she had in years. Her gown was custom-made, decorated with Swarovski stones that shimmered even in dim light. It wasn't just a dress. It was a symbol of her life, her legacy, and the power she carried with her voice that by late afternoon. The backstage area was alive with movement. White House staff, stage technicians, protocol assistants, everyone was trying to keep a massive event running smoothly. But when so many people are involved, small mistakes can grow quickly. A door left open, a message forgotten, a room changed at the last minute, and sometimes something far more confusing. When Aretha stepped into her dressing room, she noticed the change immediately. The room felt darker, colder, like someone had hurried out and forgotten to turn the light back on. Her assistant, Marlene, was checking notes while Aretha went over her performance in her mind. She planned to sing Natural Woman that night, a song that had followed her through decades of love, strength, and womanhood. "Mar, where's the dress?" Aretha asked, scanning the room. Marlene looked up, surprised. "I put it on the right side of the wardrobe, in the garment bag. I don't see it." Aretha opened and closed the wardrobe doors again and again. By the third time, a quiet worry began to form on her face. "It's not here," she said. "That's impossible. I put it there 30 minutes ago." Just then, the door opened slightly. A White House staff member peeked in with an urgent tone. "Ms. Franklin, security will clear the upper hallway shortly. Please stay in your room until we notify you." Aretha nodded politely, but the real problem was already unfolding. Her dress had vanished. Marlene began searching every corner of the room. Under the chair, inside drawers, behind the screens, nothing. The large, heavy gown had simply disappeared. "Aretha, this isn't normal," she whispered. "No one is supposed to touch that dress." Aretha took a deep breath. There must have been a mistake. Maybe housekeeping moved it earlier. Marlene shook her head quickly. "They cleaned this morning. The dress wasn't even here then. Someone took it." The room felt suddenly smaller, tighter. Outside, footsteps echoed down the hallway. A woman's voice, sharp and urgent, carried through the door. "There's a problem with the security scan. We may need to close off the side room." Aretha and Marlene exchanged a startled glance. They opened the door and looked out, and there it was. Two security officers were carrying a blue garment bag that a red warning tag was attached to it. Marlene gasped. "That's Aretha's dress." One officer spoke quickly, almost apologetically. "We had to run this gown through the security scanner. There was a high metal reading." "Metal?" Marlene snapped. "It's a performance gown. The stones are decorative. We just follow the scan reports," the officer replied. "It was flagged, so the gown had to be isolated." Aretha didn't shout. She rarely did. Years of touring had taught her to stay steady. But her voice was firm as iron. "Why wasn't I told?" she asked. The officer hesitated. "There may have been a communication issue, ma'am." Of course, a communication issue. In the White House, such issues were surprisingly common. Too many departments, too many moving pieces. Still, something felt wrong. Marlene stepped closer to the officer. "You said it was isolated, but it never came back to our room. Who moved it to the wrong hallway?" The officer frowned. "I'm not sure. We placed it in the side room after the scan. We don't handle room assignments." "Side room?" Aretha's eyes widened. "That room is closed off right now." Marlene turned pale. "Yes, because security restricted that corridor." A heavy silence fell. How did the dress get into a restricted area? More voices came from the hallway. Two security staff arguing. "I locked that room." "No, it wasn't locked. I went in for a controlled scan." "That's impossible. Only operations has access." Aretha and Marlene stared at one another. This was no longer a simple mix-up. Something wasn't adding up. Marlene, Aretha said quietly, "Is there something else you haven't told me?" Marlene hesitated. "When I first noticed the dress missing, I saw someone go into this room." "Someone? Who?" "I don't know. A man in a black suit, but he didn't have a White House badge." Aretha froze. "And you're telling me this now?" "I didn't want to panic you. And then everything moved so fast. I forgot. But now, the restricted room, the wrong placement, the red tag. Aretha, none of this feels right." Aretha closed her eyes for a moment, steadying herself. This night was too important, too symbolic. She needed that gown, the gown plan with the protocol team, approved weeks in advance. "Listen," Aretha said calmly. "That dress has no dangerous metals. They checked it already. Something else is going on." "Do you think someone messed with it?" Marlene whispered. Aretha didn't answer immediately. She stepped toward the doorway and took in the chaotic hallway. Security officers speaking in low, tense voices. Staff moving equipment. Doors opening and closing. A feeling in the air, not fear, but confusion. Confusion that didn't make sense. "This isn't sabotage," Aretha finally said. "But this is more than a mistake." She lifted her chin, strength returning to her voice. "I'm going on that stage tonight. But first, we're going to find that dress. No matter what." And with that decision, the night truly began. The hallway outside Aretha's dressing room had become strangely busy. People moved back and forth with clipboards, headsets, and boxes filled with stage equipment. The air felt different now. Tense, hurried, almost unsettled, as if everyone sensed that something was not quite right, but didn't want to say it out loud. Aretha stepped forward, her presence enough to make two staff members pause mid-conversation. She didn't need to raise her voice. Her calm, steady expression carried its own authority. "Marlene," she said softly, "let's go to the side room." Marlene swallowed hard. "You mean the restricted one?" "That's the one." They began walking, carefully moving through the busy hallway. Though no one stopped them, several people gave them uncertain looks, as if they weren't sure whether Aretha had permission to be there, but also too nervous to question her. As they approached the corridor leading to the restricted room, two security officers stood blocking the path. Their hands were crossed over their belts, their eyes alert. "Ma'am, this hallway is closed," one of them said politely. Aretha nodded. "I understand, but my dress was placed in that room by mistake. We're still investigating that," the other officer replied. "It may take a little time." "Sir," Aretha said, her tone soft but firm, "I am singing for the president in less than 2 hours. I cannot do that without my gown. Someone moved it, and I need to know why." The two security officers exchanged a look. Not disrespectful, just uncertain. After a moment, one of them lowered his voice. "We're reviewing the cameras now, Miss Franklin. If you can give us 10 more minutes." Before he could finish, a tall woman with a sharp haircut and an even sharper expression appeared behind them. She wore a badge that identified her as a senior member of the White House operations team. "What seems to be the issue here?" she asked. Aretha recognized her immediately. This was Dana Collins, head of backstage logistics. A woman known for her strict discipline and absolute control over every detail of major events. Marlene spoke before Aretha could answer. Her gown was taken into a restricted room. "We're trying to retrieve it." Dana's jaw tightened just a little. Then she forced a polite smile. "Miss Franklin, I apologize for the confusion. Yes, your dress triggered an unexpected scan, but everything is under control." "Is it?" Aretha asked softly. For a moment, Dana didn't respond. Instead, she looked at the two guards. "Open the hallway," she said. The guards stepped aside immediately. As Aretha and Marlene entered the restricted corridor, Dana followed behind them. The hallway was narrower here, quieter. The noise of the backstage area faded, leaving only the faint rumble of distant machinery and the soft hum of overhead lights. At the end of the hall stood a single door with a red sign. "Controlled security room, authorized staff only." Dana typed a code into a keypad. The lock clicked. Inside, the room was surprisingly empty. A metal table stood in the center, and 2 security scanners sat against the wall. A computer monitor blinked with lines of data, but the dress was nowhere in sight. Marlene froze. Where is it? Dana's expression didn't change. It was moved. Moved where? Aretha asked quietly. Before Dana could answer, the door opened again. A young security technician rushed in, clearly nervous. Miss Collins, sorry to interrupt, but you need to see this. Dana's face tightened. What now? It's the footage, ma'am, from the hallway camera outside this room. He looked at Aretha with uncertainty, almost fear. We saw him move the dress. Dana inhaled slowly, then forced the same rehearsed smile she'd been wearing since they arrived. Show us. The technician led them to the computer terminal. He clicked through several folders, his hands shaking slightly. Finally, he pulled up a black and white video feed from earlier that afternoon. The hallway was empty at first. Then a figure appeared. A man, tall, wearing a black suit, and no White House badge. Marlene gasped. That's him. That's the man I saw near Aretha's room. Aretha leaned closer to the screen. The man walked swiftly and confidently, as if he knew exactly where he was going. He carried the blue garment bag over his shoulder. Then he pushed open the control room door and stepped inside, without entering any code. The video cut off. The technician tried to explain, his voice trembling. The door shouldn't have opened for him. Only 4 staff members have access. Dana's tone sharpened. Who else has this footage? No one yet. I came straight to you. Good. But something was wrong in Dana's face. Something she was trying very hard to hide. Aretha turned to her. Miss Collins, she said calmly, I've performed in thousands of venues. I know when someone is trying to hide something. Dana hesitated only a moment, but that moment was enough. There is no threat to you or to the event, Miss Franklin. This is a small misunderstanding, nothing more. Aretha raised an eyebrow. A misunderstanding that involved a stranger, a restricted room, and missing security data? The situation is under control, Dana repeated firmly. Marlene stepped closer. Then where is the dress? Silence. A long, uncomfortable silence. Finally, Dana exhaled and said, "Follow me." She led them back into the hallway, this time turning left toward an older part of the building that wasn't being used for the event. The air here felt different, cooler, quieter, and the lighting flickered slightly, as if the electrical system hadn't been updated in years. Dana stopped at a small storage room door. Inside, under a dim yellow light, hung the dress. Perfect, untouched, still shimmering with thousands of stones. Marlene rushed forward with relief. Oh, thank God. But Aretha didn't move. She watched Dana carefully. How did it get here? She asked. Dana clasped her hands behind her back. It must have been relocated by mistake. No, Aretha said gently. Mistakes have fingerprints. This feels deliberate. Dana didn't answer. Instead, she reached for the dress to hand it to Aretha, but the security technician suddenly spoke up. Miss Collins, we ran a secondary scan on that gown. Dana turned sharply. You did what? The technician swallowed. There's something inside it. Something sewn into the lining. Marlene stepped back, startled. What do you mean inside it? Aretha stayed still, her face calm but intense. What exactly did you find? She asked. The technician hesitated, then looked her directly in the eyes. Ms. Franklin, we found a small electronic device hidden in the dress. The room went silent. Aretha's voice was steady. What kind of device? We're not sure yet, the technician said, but it wasn't part of the original design. Aretha took a slow breath. The dress was not just moved. It was not just misplaced. And it was not just scanned. Someone had tampered with it. Marlene whispered, Aretha, someone tried to sabotage your performance. Aretha didn't answer. She simply looked at the dress, at the glittering stones, at the beauty hiding something dangerous. Her voice, soft and strong, filled the room. Find out what's inside. and find the man who put it there. Because now Aretha Franklin knew. This was no accident. This was a message. Aretha now knew that her delayed stage call wasn't just a simple technical mix-up. It was intentional, because this kind of thing had happened before to others. Ray Charles, whose White House song choice was changed at the last minute for being too political. Marvin Gaye, whose What's Going On was removed from the program with the excuse of running short on time. Harry Belafonte, whose speech was cut unexpectedly. And even Bob Dylan, whose microphone accidentally failed right after he switched to a more daring song. Aretha had heard these stories for years. Some had been whispered to her backstage by the artists themselves. So she always kept a small corner of her mind prepared for the day someone might try something similar on her. But sabotaging her dress, that she had never imagined. In the dim light of the backstage dressing room, she checked her gown again. The shoulder seam looked altered, as if it had been taken apart and stitched back together quickly. The zipper jammed halfway, refusing to close fully. The inner seams were slightly loose, almost invisible, but definitely tampered with. This was no coincidence. This was someone's quiet attempt to shake her confidence, without touching the music, because damaging the dress wouldn't ruin the song, but it could break the singer if she allowed it. Aretha breathed in deeply. She looked at her reflection in the mirror, then whispered to herself, "I'm Aretha. They can't stop me like this." It would become the most important sentence spoken in the White House that night, though no one else heard it. Her stage call came. A staff member opened the door. "Ms. Franklin, we're ready for you." His voice carried the kind of nervousness that revealed more than he intended. Aretha walked down the hallway slowly. Every shadow, every whisper, every glance felt heavier than normal, as if the building itself was aware that something wasn't right. But she also knew, whatever game was being played here, she would not walk away from that stage. When she stepped into the East Room, the entire audience fell silent. The usual polite White House attention turned into genuine curiosity. Her dress, despite all the trouble, still looked elegant. But if one looked closely, they could see the slight shift at the shoulder, the small struggle near the zipper. Aretha gently adjusted the fabric with her hand, a graceful motion, but full of meaning. The pianist began to play. Aretha's face settled into a calm, determined smile. Everyone expected a safer, less political choice. But Aretha would sing the song she had chosen. She leaned into the microphone, and the first note filled the room. Her voice was so strong that any attempt at sabotage instantly became insignificant. The audience realized they were not witnessing a performance. They were witnessing a force. Halfway through the song, Aretha paused, a rare thing for her. She looked out at the room, directly into the eyes watching her. "Sometimes," she said, "they try to quiet your voice, but they can't quiet your soul." In the White House, those words were nearly a declaration. But no one interrupted, because everyone felt the truth behind them. She finished the final note. A moment of deep silence followed. A long, breath-held moment. And then someone applauded. Just one pair of hands. Then another, and another. Within seconds, the entire room rose to its feet. The standing ovation lasted so long that even the protocol team didn't know what to do. Some advisors looked visibly uncomfortable, but the president seemed stunned. As Aretha walked off stage, she gently pulled her dress's slipping shoulder back into place. A soft, confident gesture, and she whispered, "Whoever tried this, they remember who I am now." That night, the sabotage attempt did not make history. But Aretha Franklin's answer did. Because even in the White House, no one, absolutely no one, could silence Aretha Franklin.